Hello and welcome to my presentation. So my name is Jesvir Dhillon and I'm a final year student on the Doctorate of Educational Psychology. This is part of my thesis. It's the empirical paper which is titled A Qualitative Exploration of Facilitators and Adolescents' Experiences of a School-Based Internet Cognitive Behaviour Therapy or iCBT intervention program for reducing adolescent anxiety. So just to kind of give you some context, there's lots of things in the news, even something in the past few days on BBC News. So coronavirus, child psychologists highlight mental health risks of lockdown for young people. And before that, there was lots of things in the news around is young people's mental health getting worse? And also child mental health unit referrals up nearly 50%. So government has been trying to, with the Department of Health and Department of Education, to transform children and young people's mental health provision, and they've had lots of consultations following the Green Paper in 2017, and at the moment they're in the process of implementing this kind of transformation, which I've seen in different educational psychology services across England. Background information to my project. So in the UK, 1 in 7 young people aged 11 to 16 experienced a mental health difficulty in 2017. Over a quarter of referrals to specialist children's mental health services were rejected in 2018-2019, and it suggests that that's roughly around 130,000 children and young people. 25% of 11 to 16-year-olds with a mental health difficulty have self-harmed or attempted suicide, and more than half of all mental health conditions in adulthood are diagnosed before the age of 14. So therefore, it's very important for us to intervene at an adolescent age. So bring in cognitive behaviour therapy, or CBT, which we've probably all heard of. So CBT is the idea that our behaviour, as shown in the diagram, behaviour, thoughts and feelings are linked, and if we intervene at one of those, so intervene at feelings, we can change our thoughts and behaviour. So there is increasing evidence for the effectiveness of CBT for anxiety-related difficulties in adolescents. And he highlights CBT needs to be adapted as face-to-face CBT is not considered adequate. So this brings in internet-based cognitive behavioural, or iCBT. So this is considered a cost-effective, it's an efficient, it's a non-stigmatizing treatment. However, the experiences of adolescents and school staff is largely unexplored in the context of iCBT, and Franklin argues the importance of teachers and schools in the delivery of these interventions. So this brings in BRAVE. So my project is set within an educational psychology service who was looking at how to support adolescents in schools. So they worked on a joint project with BRAVE, who is an independent company who provides online courses and programs for common mental health difficulties based on CBT guidelines and manuals. So they originally had lots of programs for adults, and what they did is a joint project with the Educational Psychology Service and adapted a program for secondary schools. So this was an online program that was delivered, and it was supported by a facilitator or facilitators within schools. It was a 10-week school-based iCBT program with sessions lasting 45 to 60 minutes. And it included CBT strategies, it included psychoeducation, graded exposure, mindfulness. And if you wanted further information about BRAVE, you can click the link at the bottom as well. So this adapted program, they called it BRAVE, Managing Anxiety for Youth. For short, we call it BMA. So the aims and objectives of my project was to explore the experiences of school-based facilitators and adolescents towards the BMA program and understand how it can be better implemented in schools. So 3 main research questions came from this. So what are the experiences of adolescents and facilitators using the program? What are the perceived strengths and barriers for adolescents and facilitators using the program? What might adolescents' ideal internet-based intervention program for reducing anxiety consist of? Also, facilitators were considered people who supported the implementation of the program. So this could have been a Senko, teacher, teaching assistant, or someone in pastoral care as well. So my study was a qualitative study using individual semi-structured interviews with adolescents and facilitators. It's also nested within a quantitative study by Fiona Marsh, who was exploring the effectiveness of a school-based iCBT intervention for reducing anxiety. So my project involved 7 schools who completed 8 to 10 weeks of the BMA program, 9 facilitator interviews. There was 8 female and 1 male, 22 adolescent interviews, so that was 12 female and 10 male. So following these interviews, these 31 interviews were transcribed, and a thematic analysis was used to inductively code and analyze the transcripts. So qualitative data to codes to themes. A 6-stage approach to thematic analysis was used as a guide to allow flexibility as data was gathered at different stages as well. So my findings, I have four main themes, and which I've highlighted in purple, and then each of these themes had sub-themes off them as well. So the first main theme is expectations. So from this, the first main sub-theme was accessibility. So young people and facilitators wanted access to immediate strategies for anxiety, an adolescent-friendly program, and access to support networks or materials or other professionals if needed. So this was highlighted by Flora, who said, I think at the start, I found it quite unhelpful. I found it a little bit frustrating because it was a lot of information to read. It was not friendly for us, so it wasn't user-friendly for them. The next sub-theme was privacy. So privacy is where adolescents discuss, who could access their information, who could retrieve their personal information when they implemented in the program. Was it anonymous? Participants highlighted this real uncertainty around confidentiality also within the school environment. This was also highlighted by Peter, who said, I don't think anyone looked at my screen when I was writing. It's just that I felt a bit nervous if people looked at my screen and thought differently. There was also an expectation of tailoring, the next sub-theme. So this was the need for differentiation from the facilitator and tailored towards their needs. And often the facilitators talked about how they had to adapt to their needs. So Teddy highlighted this. So say, I can't think. So say if there was a load of writing, they would read it with you to help you instead of us reading it. They'd make it more understandable. Yeah, for me personally, I'm not good at reading. It's better for them to read it out. And the next main theme was perceived efficacy of BMA. So the first sub-theme of this was multimedia learning. So the program used more than one expression of communication, for example, videos, writing, multiple choice questions, practical exercises, which they talked about. So young people or adolescents, they wanted a variety of multimedia learning techniques. So, quote by Alana, so sometimes it's hard to just read a lot. It's better to do a mix of things. It's easier with videos or exercises. I didn't really understand some paragraphs during BMA. The next sub-theme is usefulness. So participants considered the quality and help it provided by the overall BMA program, and they suggested how to improve the program to make it more useful. So Polly said the program itself was really valuable as a standalone. So this was by a facilitator as well. Evidence of change was another sub-theme that came up. So participants discussed how others or they had changed over the course of the program. Adolescents had been able to implement strategies to help with anxiety, and they described this idea of how they changed over time. So Brittany said, yeah, I use the exercises, like the breathing exercise. I used that for a dance show because I really used to panic before them. Well, it stopped me passing out, so that's a good thing. I don't panic as much, just to illustrate how she's changed over time. So findings in terms of another main theme was ease of use. So ease of use was the main theme, and sub-themes of that was practical exercises. So they talked about these different exercises and techniques in the program, like weekly check-ins, mindfulness, breathing exercise, observation model, progressive muscle relaxation, and also they talked about the videos within the program. So Tom said the videos are definitely very, very useful, definitely. They explained how it was through pictures. They did scenarios that explain what people go through. Another sub-theme that came off ease of use was IT and resources. So this is the idea. Actually, they talked about how there's lots of IT issues within school, and they didn't have access to resources, weren't available as well. For example, they didn't have access to computers or the latest software that the BMA program was made to be used on, and often they had to make adaptations within the school environment to be able to allow them to use the program. Program navigation was another sub-theme that came off this as well. So this was the idea. They commented about how they moved around the program. So Trent said they needed a how to use the program activity, understanding it would make it easier to work. They needed like how to use or instruction bar. So click here to go to the next bit. And then another sub-theme was the pace within the program. So participants talked about how the program was spread out and paced, and it varied amongst individuals in the group as well, and often when they would come back together. So Tammy said, you need time in the program to think properly. Scheduling was another sub-theme. So participants commented on how differently the groups were planned, set up, and the time constraints of the intended program as well. So Henry said the conversational elements were taken out due to time constraints. The final main theme is relationships. So this was within groups. So this describes this relationship with other adolescents. It describes how an intimate space for the group helped the adolescents connect with one another and really provided a sense of belonging. So Amy said, it was nice to know people have the same sort of problems. I think I was able to see that it's not just me that has all the same things happening. I now know people that have the same sort of difficulties. They also talked about relationships with facilitator. So, they talked about if there was a pre-existing relationship or there's a newly formed relationship, and the extent to which the facilitator was actively involved and engagement of the program. So Tabitha says, it was really good. I think it built positive relationship with students as well. It just helps to develop that positive relationship with the students. I feel it feels nice to help them through it, really. So in summary, participants held positive views towards the BMA program. Participants expected the program to be accessible, tailored to their learning needs, and have options of privacy both within the program and in the school environment. Participants' perceived efficacy of BMA was dependent on the program meeting their multimedia needs, their perceived usefulness, and if participants saw evidence of change from using the program. Ease of use of the program was influenced by the practical exercises, program navigation, IT and resources, paced within the program, and how the program was scheduled. Relationships with facilitators and with adolescents groups played an important role in their perceived acceptability and motivation towards the program. Strengths and limitations. So it really values the voices and experience of adolescents and facilitators. There was an even adolescent gender sample of 10 and 12. There was rich qualitative data gathered. It was a time-efficient program. Limitations, that it lacks of understanding of the adherence to the program. So it wasn't clear whether they used it manualized or they did it different ways. It was only based within one local authority, and it's difficult to generalize findings. So it was only based in one educational psychology service. Implications for schools and educational psychology practice. It adds the literature for evidenced digital based intervention. It identifies a potential role for educational psychologists in supporting facilitators. It helps in designing high quality digital mental health interventions, and it also provides ideas of how school based interventions could be implemented. So, finally, I just want to send my acknowledgements and thank yous to the 22 adolescents and 9 facilitators who participated in the study, my supervisory team, Sarah Kirby, Brittany Hartwell, and Sarah Wright, my co-researcher Fiona Marsh, who did the quantitative side, the educational psychology service, in particular Julia Hooper, and the BRAVE team for designing the BMAID program. And finally, I've just got some references that I referred to in my presentation, and that's the end of my presentation. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it.